There is a legend of Siddhartha vowing not to move from the spot beneath the bo tree until he has come to absolute completion. Sitting there in meditation, he is assailed by all the intensity of temptations of the mind and body, by fear and lust, by doubt and ignorance, which in Buddhism is called the mistaken belief that we are the thoughts that pass through the mind. In Buddhism, the definition of ignorance is thinking you're the mind. Thinking I'm the mind. A case of mistaken identity. As the temptress of desire and the warrings of the ego swirled around Buddha to distract him from his endeavors, he reached down and touched the ground. It's called bringing the earth to witness. Even the Buddha had to touch nature to be reinforced. For years, I lost touch with the planet and eventually myself. Having left the fields and woods of my youth, already pitted with restlessness and in search of the origin of this confusion, I lived in the city, followed many paths. Some led to considerable pain. Some approached grace. For years I had no animals around. I was all too human. But when the world had eaten my head sufficiently, I went back to the quiet of the tall trees. After nearly a month of psychological spelunking through daily intervals of angst and confusion, trusting Thomas Merton's assurance that true prayer is learned in the time when prayer has become impossible and the heart has turned to stone. Trusting that, I asked a friend if I might borrow his unused cabin in the redwoods for a short retreat. I made my way up the mountain in the rain, coming to the cabin in the redwoods, soaked to the bone with grief. When I arrived at the mountain cabin in the midst of the dark night, the hinge was slow to relent, the hearth cold and unwilling, an old green chair full of dusty mice, the remnants of early maps nibbled by the chair. I lit a candle and meditated until dawn. I called for help to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas who, it is rumored, support earnest pilgrims on the path. This cabin had not been lived in years. A fellow had gotten it years before and just was too drawn into the city to get back. Said I could use it as long as I wanted. Anxious for the morning sun to find a spot where the mid-morning light is leaning over the high redwoods and remains on the forest floor more than 4 hours, I began to prepare a garden. I had not planted since I was a child, before I became lost in the dark wood of the world, as my friend Ferlinghetti would say. But the earth remembered me, called me to witness myself, welcomed me, put her arms around me, and let me weep on my knees with seed and trowel on the dark soil.